What's going on, everybody? You are listening to the ESPN Pod. I'm your host, John McLeod. Got to give a shout out to my producer, Kiki. So amazing. Always got to show love every time I get a chance. This is the podcast that goes behind the scenes on the content you love, the people that create it, and everything in between. Today, we got my man, 150 grand, Arda Öcal. Is it Öcal or Öcal?
Öcal is perfect, my dude. How are you?
Excellent, my friend. How are you?
Looking good, feeling good, man. That makes two of us. Life is good, man. Like, we're just chilling and really excited. I've been looking forward to this and chopping it up with you. So I'm happy we're here.
No, absolutely, man. We're gonna have a good time today. And we are so chill on the podcast. We like to do two things very well: learn and have an amazing conversation. And to do those two things, we got to have amazing people like you. First, before we go anywhere, I want to, for the listeners at home, I want to describe this to you. And for those on YouTube, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. My man Arda is wearing the Booyah t-shirt. Shout out to Stu Scott, a legend, broadcast legend for ESPN, period. He made all the antics that I do, that Arda does, phenomenal. He started it way back when, and he made it cool to be yourself. So I can't go anywhere, go further in the show without giving a shout out to my boy, Stu Scott, and for Arda, for you showing up with the shirt. What does that shirt mean to you?
A lot. It means a lot to me. Like you said, Stuart Scott really opened the door to show your personality to its fullest extent while doing your job. That had always happened in some capacity, but Stuart Scott really changed the game. You know, you have those pivotal moments or people that come in and just completely disrupt something for the better, right? The disruptors, the ones that improve, that take something that had been commonplace up until that point, or even just developing and percolating and taking such a different approach that it's almost as if it's better. Like, Stuart Scott is like, you know how they say there are 3 levels of gifts that you can receive on a holiday, right? The first one is, I tell you what I want and you give it to me. That's level 1. Level 2 is, I said something in passing, but I'm not directly telling you what I want, but you remember it and then you give it to me. So it's a little bit bigger of a surprise for me, right? That's level 2. But level 3 is, I give you something that you didn't even think about, or you didn't even think you knew you wanted, but now that you have it, you couldn't picture life without it. Like, that's the nirvana of gift giving, right?
Oh, yeah.
Stuart Scott, for me, and I'm certain many people listening to this, gave us a style of reading highlights, of presenting news, of talking about sports that a lot of people didn't know existed, but we are way better off for it. And for even people who, you know, I would never say mimic people to the top degree. Learn from Stuart Scott, see what Stuart Scott did, but use that to be yourself, right? But what Stuart Scott did was open the door to allow the next generation of people to be themselves at a higher degree.
Why Stuart was so awesome and important is because he was always teaching, whether it is his style, whether it was on camera, off camera, he was always teaching by example. When you start to, let's go back into your life, Arda. When you start to talk to us about your origin and those early lessons that now started you off in your career.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm born and raised in Canada, product of Toronto. Love the city. Very proud of my background. My parents are immigrants. They came from Turkey. My father in particular has a North American dream, so to speak, kind of story. He grew up poor. He dreamed of moving to North America, eventually was able to do so, built a life for himself with his family, and obviously eventually me being raised in Canada. And you know, that gave me the opportunity to dream. Like many people being raised in North America, Canada, and the States, you have more of an opportunity to dream. And I never thought broadcasting could actually be a job for me. I growing up, I never wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to be the guy talking about the athletes. I loved people who held the microphone, whether they were doing play-by-play, whether they were hosting, whether they were doing interviews on the sidelines. Those are the people that I would pay attention to, and I thought they had the absolute coolest jobs in the entire world. Thing was, I didn't know how to get that job. I didn't know anyone in television or media or sports. I just didn't. There was nobody in our circle of family or friends or anything like that. So I just figured that it was a pipe dream or just whatever. And my parents were very keen on me getting a stable job, right? So they wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer. Anybody with immigrant parents can relate to me right now. Oh, you don't want to be a doctor? Go ahead and be a lawyer. That's fine. You know, like everyone's had that conversation if you've had immigrant parents. You know exactly what I mean. So I went to school for mathematics. I actually have a degree in mathematics from the University of Waterloo, which is a really good school in Canada. But like all the while, nights and weekends, I was sort of like building the passion for media. So I would spend a bunch of time, instead of going out and partying with my friends, for example, I would go to the local radio station and just kind of volunteer. Or I'd go to the local school paper and I would, I don't know, proofread articles and write my own, and that grew to, okay, I fill in on a morning show on the radio at the radio station, and eventually they gave me a once a week show. You know, it kind of built and snowballed, and this was all volunteer, obviously, but I didn't care because I was having fun, and I really didn't know anything. You know what I mean? Like it was looking back on it now, John, it was more like I was just sort of building the passion for broadcasting, and I kind of didn't know it because I was kind of treating it as like a fun thing to do, and it continued after yeah, exactly. And then I continued after I graduated. I got a desk job. I was a project manager for a few years, and nights and weekends again, I'd go to the local public access channel and I just like learn what the different departments were doing, and that's how like my journey sort of began in broadcasting. Was I just showed up and learned and did.
So that is phenomenal, first of all. So let's recap for a couple seconds. He was a mathematician. He was a math major. But
barely. Here's the thing. Okay, wait a second. I do have the degree. Okay, I will take the credit for getting the degree. Let's not say that I was an honor student, and I'm just going to leave it at that. All right.
So now, talk to me. Now, in your career, you do several things. You were at the Weather Channel doing the weather?
Yeah, that was a very random. So my career progression, basically, to just like the Coles notes here is, when I was 27, so mid 2000, somewhere there, I decided, okay, I'm going to give myself a couple years. I saved my money from the project management job. I really need to give this 100% go. If I can't be in a good position by the time I'm 30, I'll give up. I can look myself in the mirror. I can say that I tried, and I'll go and do something else because at least I have the fallback, right?
That's right.
So I said, okay, I'm gonna pursue this, and I ended up as a volunteer and an intern, pardon me, and then a part-time producer at The Score, which many people might know as an app, a sports app now. But back in the day, in Canada in particular, it was a national sports television channel, and it was the smallest one. There was the two big ones, TSN and Sportsnet, that had all the sports rights: NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL, et cetera, et cetera. The Score really had nothing. The biggest property The Score had was WWE. Now, I grew up a lifelong wrestling fan. I was a big fan of professional wrestling, and that was sort of my big break because I happened to be in the right place at the right time. I was producing a few sports shows here and there, whatever, talk shows, you name it. And then an email came from the VP of programming, and the email was a company-wide email. And now I'm at the right place at the right time because I happen to have a company email because I happen to be volunteering at this channel. So I'm in the system. So I received the email. And the email says, we're looking for show ideas. If you have anything, let us know. And I always thought, you know what would work is just like how there are sports post-game shows and pre-game shows, why doesn't that happen for WWE, especially if you air them after WWE programming? And so I pitched this show. I filled out the one-pager. 20 minutes later, the assistant to the VP says he'd like to speak with you. And that conversation became the genesis of a show called Aftermath, which was on Canadian television for 10 years. And I was on it for about 4 of them. And so that was like my sort of my break, I guess, in media. Was I was on this show on a weekly basis because I had pitched it and it got created. And Yeah, I mean, I definitely it was one of the the biggest accomplishments of my career at that time, for sure. It was the biggest at that time, no doubt, because it really it really gained me a bigger audience, but also it got me a lot of reps on national TV, which also led me to a lot of sporting opportunities as well.
Yeah, I passion and structure combined is a deadly combination. When you know what you want and you have the determination to go after it, and you spend your life going after it, you take every chance, it is inevitable that you're going to get where you want to go. It is inevitable, unless God says, no, this is not for you for reasons that you can't see, and you'll find out later. It is almost inevitable that's where you're going to go. Now,
Exactly.
Yeah, and I want to pivot a little bit because you also covered esports.
Mm-hmm.
And
what gave it away? Is it all the gaming in my background? Is that what gave that away, John?
I don't know, maybe the Star Wars figurines and things all over the place. No, maybe no, but it like, I'm curious, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are. How do you prepare to cover a sport about video games?
So, to backtrack a little bit, I'm a lifelong gamer. That is definitely one of my passions. I absolutely love sports. Yeah, exactly. So John, you and I, we were already vibing here, but like we would vibe in like an arcade, you know what I'm saying? Or we'd be playing games, right? Like absolutely. So obviously sports was my biggest passion. I grew up loving television, pro wrestling, that kind of stuff. But gaming was always there in my life. And it was probably like my number one hobby. Like there were no sports on. First thing I'd be thinking to do, probably playing some Nintendo, probably playing some Sega Genesis or some PlayStation, Xbox, whatever, you name it. Going to the arcades. I love that experience. I have 2 arcade machines behind me because they remind me of good memories from my childhood, Like I just love gaming. And so I always knew that there were video game competitions happening, but when I was growing up, this is, I'm showing my boomer status here a little bit, but there were no like consistent tournaments of video games for money where people could actually make a decent career at it. You know what I mean? So that didn't exist back in the day. Now, there's whole ecosystems for multiple titles: League of Legends, Call of Duty, Overwatch, Rocket League. There are several titles that you can. Fortnite. Look how many creators.
Street Fighter.
Street Fighter. Yeah, the FGC, the fighting game community, fantastic. So here's a story that's ESPN related. The very first assignment I ever got for ESPN. So this was 2016. I had about 10 or so years, a little bit more than that, of experience under my belt. I had not done a gaming event, an esports event. The first assignment I got was going to Madison Square Garden, where I had done a lot of coverage for the Knicks, for the Rangers, for different events. But now I'm covering the League of Legends World Championship. And the 2 semifinal matches are happening there, including what is regarded as one of the best series of League of Legends history between 2 very strong Korean teams. And when I showed up there day one, it was sold out, giant screens to watch the action. The players were on this incredible stage. Madison Square Garden looked unlike I had ever seen it before, and I was just like instantly interested in what was happening. And I received that assignment probably 3 weeks before we went to MSG. And I'll be honest, I didn't know very much about League of Legends. I played it a couple times, but I definitely didn't know too much about the esport and the competitors, etc. So I basically treated my prep for the next 3 weeks like a full-time job. I spent 8 to 10 hours a day watching old tournaments, reading about the champions in the game, reading about the rules, obviously, but also reading about the best players. Who's Faker? Who are SKT? Who are Rox Tigers at the time, etc. All of the particulars, all of the teams, what are the interesting storylines? And I just created like a 50 to 60 page notebook, jotting down notes as I was watching. And but like it sounds impressive, but if you do that across 3 weeks for 8 to 10 hours, it sounds pretty plausible. Like it's more plausible when you think of it like that. So I was jotting down a few pages of notes a day, watching and asking questions too. So I would reach out to casters. I would reach out to players. I'd reach out to fans, and I just ask questions about what interested them, etc. Now, in my role as a point guard on the desk, as the anchor, as the one that is directing traffic, I don't need to be the expert. My job is to tee up the experts to make them shine, to be as good as they can be, right? Like I, in that situation, I was the Malika Andrews on our new daily NBA program, NBA Today, right? Like surrounded by the likes of Kendrick Perkins and Vince Carter, etc. So I would tee up my experts who were former League of Legends players, and there I would put them in positions to succeed and shine and give the best possible analysis to the games that we're about to see and make it as interesting as we can. And so we did that for 2 days. The following week, we went to the final in Los Angeles, and then we continued to do a bunch of esports content. And that was actually the very first time I got on SportsCenter. We did a feature. We just did like a 2-minute 2-minute segment where we recapped everything that was happening, and that aired on SportsCenter, which was surreal to me because imagine growing up loving sports and dreaming of being on SportsCenter, and the first time that you ever appear on SportsCenter in the United States is for video games. Like no, who had that as a prop bet? No one. Like that would have been like plus 80,000. You know,
no,
like what a life. That's crazy. It was
no.
It's awesome.
That's the end of the movie, Arda. Like that's the end of the movie. The credits come after that. You go into slow mo. They dissolve. They don't see you anymore. The credits come up, and they you know, that's it. Like you don't get
You're scrolling up like this, and I'm just talking but no sound. Yeah. Exactly.
No, that's fantastic, man. It's like, you know, as I'm hearing your story, I'm just like, I feel like it's so much of a sense of pride as a professional with, you know, with my own path and career, because I hear you and I hear nothing but hope. Who inspires you?
I had a lot of broadcast inspirations, particularly in Canada. People working in hockey, people like Bob Cole, Harry Neal, Ron McLean. I had a lot of inspirations. Robin Roberts is an inspiration. There's a lot of people at ESPN that you can choose from as well. I mean, even people that I've worked with. I've done SportsCenters now with Steve Levy and John Buccigross, and I've worked with Linda Cohn, and I've worked with John Anderson and Kenny Mayne. Like I've worked with so many legends of our industry, and I've picked up something from each of them. I will say this: growing up, so my parents are from Turkey. My parents were of Muslim faith. And I will say that growing up, I didn't have many Turkish or Muslim role models to look up to. Like we had Canadian role models, definitely, especially Canadians that would make it big. Like John Saunders is a perfect example, right? Like anytime a Canadian makes it in the United States, there's an extra sense of pride among Canadians. Not because Canada's not a worthy country. Canada's a fantastic country, but obviously the United States is the land of opportunity, right? And the world sees that. So like when a Canadian is able to break through, whether it's in acting, whether it's broadcasting, athletes, whatever, that is always an extra sense of pride there. So I always gravitated as well towards the Canadians that would make it big, you know, whether it was Jim Carrey or Mike Myers or any musicians, you know, that were able to cross the border and make it big in the States. But one person that I would say, if you were to say one person that is your hero and idol, it would be Muhammad Ali, 100%. All day, every day, no question, Muhammad Ali. And for me, that's where that perseverance of mine comes from. He had a different sense of purpose, right? Like he was fighting for justice, and he was fighting for equality, and he was fighting for equal rights, and he was fighting for what he believed, right? And I always saw like incredible power in that, and the way that he conducted himself, right? Like he was entertaining, but he was also delivering a message, and he was the best, right? And so like there were so many things. Like I've read so many Muhammad Ali books and watched plenty of documentaries, and I know I'm not alone at ESPN. There are plenty of people. I've had great conversations with people who are big Ali fans as well, and you can see in my background. I mean, even this is a Ali inspired.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah,
The
right. And then I
knockout.
have the
Yeah.
Wheaties box here and everything. Like anything
Yeah.
Ali, I will happily collect. And going to the Ali Center in Kentucky, in Louisville, was an amazing experience. But for me, like, he was also one of the few Muslim role models that existed in my time. You know what I mean? Growing up, there
Yeah.
weren't many, and so he was one of the few that he was somebody that brought that made, you know, certain ideals and ways of life, and promoting the goodness of his faith commonplace. Like, so many people in the United States and the world know about the virtues of what he believed in because of how he conducted himself and how successful he was and how much of a global icon he was, right? And so one thing that motivates me a lot, and look, I in no way, shape, or form am I comparing myself. I am definitely a much smaller example of this. But if I could find even one kid that is watching SportsCenter or watching the NHL on ESPN that shares my background, maybe has a Turkish family, or maybe is Turkish Canadian even, or is from a Muslim family or whatever, if they watch and they say, wow, there's someone that shares my common background, you know,
Values, yeah.
yeah, exactly, like common background, and there aren't too many that are on the air. And so if they see me or people like me, you know, others include, for example, Nabil Kareem, like him and I have done a bunch of sports centers together. And to my knowledge, I think that we are the first Muslim pairing to ever host Sports Center in its
Wow.
illustrious history, which is
Wow.
a big point of pride definitely for me, for us, right? And so if people see me on television and say, that's awesome, like I am inspired by this, that is a big thing that keeps me going, because I would love nothing more than to help inspire the next generation of people that see people familiar to them or see people on TV that share a background with them, so that they can be inspired and know that it is possible for them.
Just phenomenal, man. Just phenomenal. I like we all.
Do you think I could get away with Ali catchphrases on SportsCenter? Do you think anyone would notice?
I hope you do it. Like, Arda, now I'm going to hold you accountable to do it now, because that
I'm going to expect text messages
phenomenal.
from you. I'm going to wait for text. Be like, I caught that one. Let's go. Rumble, young man, Rumble. I see that. Let's go.
Yes, and please do that.
People might catch on eventually.
Yeah, but who are you telling? Like, man, you do that, you know, that's the 5 seconds later is going on social. 5 seconds later is going on social. That would be awesome. Now I'm going to be looking now.
Let's go.
Because I'm going to hold you accountable. Throw it in there.
You're waiting. You're waiting.
Yeah, no, I love it because, bro, I'm just in a full agreement with where you're going, you know, professionally, what you are preaching to the younger generations, all generations for that matter, because it applies to people that are pivoting as well. Mm-hmm. You've done that several times. Like, I'm doing this, but I'm going to do this now. And it's going to get calculated, and it's going to get me to where I want to go. And I think one of the most important things that you've said today is, like, I've taken the calculated risk. I've seen what others have done, those that inspire me. I've put it together in a way that allows success, that opens up for success. I have a structured plan, and I'm going after it. Well, Arda, man, I'm going to jump off, and Kiana's going to jump on for the Fab Five, and then we're going to come back and we'll finish it.
All right. Sounds great.
Now it's time for the Fab Five.
Now to the Fab Five segment. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay. So first question. I seen on your Instagram that you play the guitar. Mm-hmm. What was the first song you learned to play the guitar?
I play the
first song you learned to play.
I actually still have the bass. Hold on, let me show you. It is right. You see it? Where did it go? There it is.
Oh, I do see it. Yeah.
So that's my bass. I still play it. The first song I ever learned, probably something simple like Hot Cross Buns or something, but like the first like commercial song, Longview by Green Day. That was the first song I learned.
Okay, so next question. What is your favorite gaming system of all time?
Okay, so I have multiple answers for this. For nostalgia, the system that hooked me on video games as a kid was the NES, the original Nintendo. Super Mario 1, 2, 3, Contra, Ice Hockey, Blades of Steel, RBI Baseball, all those games. The original 8-bit Nintendo. Okay, that was the original. Will always be like my first love, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say favorite, honestly, the Switch is incredible. Now, I know people are like, well, the PS5 and Xbox Series X are marvels of technological advancement. Totally understand. I am a little bit of a Nintendo enthusiast. I love my Mario games. I love my Zelda games. In my humble opinion, and this is going to be very polarizing, okay? So I hope that this doesn't get a lot of blowback on social media, but it probably will. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, which was released for the Wii U and the Switch simultaneously, in my humble opinion, is the greatest video game masterpiece of all time.
That is a very controversial statement.
Yeah, it is. I know. And people are going to be like, you're an idiot because there's this game and this game and this game and this game. And I am ready for all of those takes on social media. I will happily debate you and I will have a smile on my face the entire time, even though if you think I am the biggest loser for what I just said.
Next question. And I see you're going to like this one. So I am also a very big supporter of Nintendo games. Nintendo 64 is just like it for me. I'm going to tell you why. Okay. Mario Kart. And you got to play Mario Kart with Mike Tyson. And I'm so jealous. And the reason why is because I feel like that is the only thing in life that I might be able to beat him at. So who won?
I don't want to throw Mike under the bus here in answering this question. It was definitely the first time he had played Mario Kart.
Okay.
So call it a tie. I'm going to say you would have a really good chance of defeating Mike Tyson at Mario Kart.
You chose to do math after high school by choice. Mm-hmm. So for that, I applaud you. You won in life already. What was your career plan in elementary school? Like, where did you see yourself going with this? Did you plan on doing math at a young age?
No, I mean, I just figured that I could do it. And I always felt, I don't know, I always equated math with like a decent career, I guess, for some odd reason. So I was like, all right, parents, I'll do math. How does that sound? And they were like really impressed. And I was like, okay, I guess I'll do this to impress my parents in a way. And I'll just figure out what the career will be. Like, I guess like in researching it, like math could lead to a bunch of things. I could have been a professor, or could have been a researcher. I had always had that in my head. So I guess maybe that's one of the reasons why I like the idea of math. Cause like I could get into teaching at some point. And I always liked the idea of imparting knowledge upon the next generation kind of thing.
I love the conversation. Here's the last question for Fab Five.
Okay.
What board game are you absolutely amazing at?
What board game am I absolutely amazing at? Ooh, that is a very tough one. Oh, you know what? Connect 4. I am fantastic at Connect 4. In fact, I would go so far as to say I could probably crown myself the ESPN Connect 4 champion pretty confidently.
That sounds like a challenge, and I accept.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I graciously accept your challenge. The ESPN Connect 4 champion graciously accepts your challenge.
Thank you for answering our Fab Five. You made it through.
We did it.
Arda, let me tell you something. You are in danger. I want to let you know that right now. You spoke about Mike Tyson like that. I'm terrified. If he's listening to this, we're going to hide you somewhere. Because
I literally just saw your chat message right now. Don't get killed, Arda.
So, folks, for myself, I'm John McLeod. That's Kinky for our man Arda Öcal, the Canadian legend, killing it for ESPN, ESPN Plus. Everything he touches turns to gold. Thank you so much for listening to the ESPN Pod. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Thanks for tuning in, and make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to ESPN PR on YouTube. And you can find the ESPN Pod wherever you find your podcasts.